Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So today reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 27, Text 28 and 29. So we'll do that both. Okay. Yeah, they wrote both on the board. Okay. Recite both. Mat bhakta pratibodharto. Mat prasadena bhuyasa. Nishreyasam svasamsthanam. Kevalyakyam adashrayam. Prapnati hancha satiraha. Svatrisha chinna samshayaha. Yat katvana nivarteta. Yogi lingad vinirgame. Mat bhakta pradipudharto. Mat prasadena bhuyasa. Nishreyasam svasamsthanam. Kvalyakyam adashrayam. Prapnati hancha sadiraha. Svatrisha chinna samshayaha. Yat katvana nivarteta. Yogi lingad vinirgame. Mat bhakta pratibodharto. Mat prasadena bhuyasa. Nishreyasam susamsthanam. Kevalyakyam adashrayah. Prapnoti hanjasadiyah. Adishadhika samsayah. Lingad vinirgame. Buddharto. Prasadena Bhuyasa Shreyasam Sasamsthanam Valdakyam Madashrayaham Apnatiham Yasadena Sisha Chinna Samshayaha Yatkatvana Nivarteta Yogilingad Vinirgame Matvakta Pratiputhato Matprasadena Bhuyata Yasamsta Samsthanam Valyam Papadashrayam Titam Chasadira Okay, so translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhayacharinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited, causeless mercy, and thus, when freed from all doubts, he steadily progresses towards his destined abode, which is directly under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss. That is the ultimate perfectional goal of the living entity. After giving up the present material body, the mystic devotee goes to that transcendental abode and never comes back. Purport. Actual self-realization means becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. The existence of a devotee implies the function of devotion and the object of devotion. Self-realization ultimately means to understand the personality of Godhead and the living entities. To know the individual self and the reciprocal exchanges of loving service between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity is real self-realization. This cannot be attained by the impersonalists or other transcendentalists. They cannot understand the science of devotional service. Devotional service is revealed to the pure devotee by the unlimited, causeless mercy of the Lord. This is especially spoken of here by the Lord, Mat Prasadena, by my special grace. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Only those who engage in devotional service with love and faith receive the necessary intelligence from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that gradually and progressively they can advance to the abode of the Personality of Godhead. Nishreyasa means the ultimate destination. Svasamsthana indicates that the impersonalists have no particular place to stay. The impersonalists sacrifice their individuality so that the living spark can merge into the impersonal effulgence emanating from the transcendental body of the Lord. But the devotee has a specific abode. The planets rest in the sunshine, but the sunshine itself has no particular resting place. When one reaches a particular planet, then he has a resting place. The spiritual sky, which is known as Kaivalya, is simply blissful light on all sides, and it is under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 14:27, Brahmano hi pratishtaham, the impersonal Brahman effulgence rests on the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, the bodily effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Kaivalya, or impersonal Brahman. In that impersonal effulgence there are spiritual planets which are known as Vaikunthas, chief of which is Krishna Loka. Some devotees are elevated to the Vaikuntha planets, and some are elevated to the planet Krishna Loka. According to the desire of the particular devotee, he is offered a particular abode, which is known as Svasamsthana, his desired destination. By the grace of the Lord, the self-realized devotee engaged in devotional service understands his destination even while in the material body. He therefore performs his devotional activities steadily, without doubting, and after quitting his material body, he at once reaches the destination for which he has prepared himself. After reaching that abode, he never comes back to this material world. The words lingad vinirgame, which are used here, mean after being freed from the two kinds of material bodies, subtle and gross. The The subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, false ego, and contaminated consciousness, and the gross body is made of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. When one is transferred to the spiritual world, he gives up both the subtle and gross bodies of this material world. He enters the spiritual sky in his pure spiritual body and is stationed in one of the spiritual planets. Although the impersonalists also reach that spiritual sky after giving up the subtle and gross material bodies, they are not placed in the spiritual planets. As they desire, they are allowed to merge in the spiritual effulgence emanating from the transcendent body of the Lord. The word Svasamsthanam is also very significant. As a living entity prepares himself, so he attains his abode, the impersonal Brahman effulgence. So he attains his abode. The impersonal Brahman effulgence is offered to the impersonalists, but those who want to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this transcendental form as Narayana in the Vakuntas, or with Krishna in Krishna Loka, go to those abodes, wherefrom they never return. Om Gyanatim Nandasya Granjana Shalakya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupagadam Mayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshtam Shri Rupam Zagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamshta He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhana Satedevi Pranamami Hare Priya Vancha kalpatarupescha kripa sindhyabha evacha patitanam pavanebhya vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna, thank you for coming this morning. So we're continuing the discussion of Mother Devahuti with her son Lord Kapiladev, and today's verse and purport is on how after hearing a lot about material nature now for 2 chapters, how intricate it is and how strongly entangled we are. Now in today's verse we hear how the Lord says that ultimately to really get out of it, obviously, as we know, is only possible by the Lord's unlimited causeless mercy. It is by that, Lord Kapiladev says it, that one becomes self-realized. Which obviously doesn't mean that you're not supposed to do anything, to endeavor anything for it. It's just magically, but rather it means that ultimately we simply depend on the Lord's causeless mercy. And I wanted to speak a bit on this point because mercy, causeless mercy, is something we devotees, many times we use the words, and because we know Prabhupada and the scriptures so many times tell us that yes, it is not by any endeavors like one otherwise might think, that yes, just gaining transcendental knowledge through our intellectual endeavors or through some tapasya or so forth, that it might be possible, but no, we know there's like so many verses, like we discussed one time, Lord Brahma's prayers, for example, after Brahma Vimohan Lila, Yane Prayasam Udapasyate Vibhu, and so on, where he very clearly shows that it is not by mental speculation or any other endeavors that we can understand the Lord and get His mercy. But still we might use it a bit loosely, like it's just mercy, all mercy, causeless mercy, and but if we don't realize more deeply how great actually Krishna is, and how amazing is that, that on the one hand, how dependent we are on the Lord, of course, which is one theme that obviously comes out in discussing chapters like we are currently studying the material nature, showing how helplessly we are entangled here, and then, but also then understanding how amazing Krishna is and how inconceivable he is. That meaning that yes, only by His mercy we can understand Him. Yes, that means because He is simply completely inconceivable. We cannot. Because that itself implies that there's no other way of understanding Him than Him giving us the understanding to us. So, yeah, I heard recently one amazing lecture of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, where it's called, if you search it on YouTube, "Simplicity of Love Conquers Krishna." So, yeah, it's obviously one of his classical masterpieces, where I guess 1.5 hours or so he speaks and gives the long introduction actually on this point of how to actually better appreciate and understand the loving exchanges between Krishna and his devotees, Krishna's causeless mercy upon his devotees. We need to understand how inconceivable Krishna is. And one point, today's purport and verse, we heard also about the impersonalists, how their desire is to merge in the Brahman effulgence, and it is also only by Krishna's mercy that they may be able to attain that destination. So, because one Raj was explaining generally that a mistake that people make, is when we accept that okay, there's something divine beyond us, at least beyond us in the sense of how we understand ourselves in these material bodies, how we live in this world. But it is, and so, which means, but it is inconceivable. So and as impersonalists, then you conclude that, yes, so it is inconceivable, so actually there's nothing, which in one sense means, much explained that, well, there's nothing to conceive of for us. Because, anyway, he doesn't have qualities, he doesn't have form, nothing like that. So it's just, impersonal effulgence. And so that is one mistake you can make, that, okay, yes, God, so-called God, is inconceivable. But no, rather we know that the proper understanding is that, yes, Krishna has form and qualities and pastimes and everything. But these are completely inconceivable. Even there's many pastimes where it becomes more apparent for us that we see, yes, okay, that's pretty far out. We cannot imagine anyone else doing that as he does. But in fact, it is said that, like Maharaj was quoting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when he talks to Srila Rupa Goswami, I believe it's perhaps before he gives his instruction at the beginning, but it's been a while that I read it, not sure. So where he tells to Rupa Goswami that what I'm gonna tell you now is simply a particle of a drop of water of the unlimited ocean of Krishna that I'll try to explain now. So, that's quite inconceivable. And when we understand that Srila Rupa Goswami, based on those instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he then compiled all his scriptures, like especially Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and we are all aspiring to be Rupa Nugas, that meaning that he's our main acharya in the at least in the recent line after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, but all that he heard from Mahaprabhu himself is saying is just a particle of a drop of that unlimited ocean. And so Maharaj explained that, yes, so as devotees we understand that actually it is only the more we sincerely endeavor, and we know endeavor means not by our intellectual mental speculation, but by endeavor by trying to please the Lord in engaging in devotional service, the more we endeavor to try to conceive the Lord, the more we realize how inconceivable He is. That is one beautiful, magical aspect of bhakti. And yeah, so like and Maharaj also gave one example of what we are discussing right here with, about he was saying that we see here Mother Devahuti. She was apparently, like externally we know in the scriptures that the women are like supposed to be less intelligent in terms of being able to understand the scriptures and transcendental knowledge. But so here Mother Devahuti, she was like what we were reading in the last several weeks and months, all these descriptions of especially about material nature, which are quite intricate, about creation and everything, which can be quite difficult to understand, even to theoretically get a little grasp of it. But Mother Devahuti, she just was sitting there, hearing it once spoken by her son in front of her, and she understood everything. But so how did she understand? So we know that because of her devotion for the Lord, because she was fully surrendered, fully devoted to the Lord. That's why the Lord was pleased with her and endowed her with the understanding. But what is that ultimately? What is that understanding? More importantly than, of course, we try to grasp as much as we can of all these details of material nature, but ultimately what it brings us to is to understand that she was saying that she was completely humbled by His mercy, love, and affection, and so she loved Him, and her understanding that she had is that, my Lord, I'm simply yours. And yeah, so that. But again, to come to that, it does help because then you might say, okay, then I don't want to bother going through these things. If that's all we need to understand, I'm yours. But again, it's not a cheap thing to come to actually realize those kind of things, to stand in front of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath and from my heart feel, yes, I'm yours, Radha Gopinath. There's nothing else that I want to do, no other shelter. So to get this realization more and more deeply, it's not a cheap thing. It's only possible by the unlimited causeless mercy of the Lord. And because we are like, who is Krishna, who is Radha Gopinath, and who are we? He's unlimited in every respect, unlimited all His opulences, and we are here fallen in Kali Yuga especially, where we would have no opportunity at all to actually start to understand that there is a person, and then how amazing that person is, who is behind not only this one material universe, but behind the whole existence, which is so inconceivable. So, and like another example Maharaj gave there in that respect is that if we know that in terms of creation, at the very beginning, how it starts is that the Lord, as an expansion of an expansion of expansion, as Mahavishnu, Karanata Koshaya Vishnu, when He lies down in the causal ocean, that it is only when He, simply by a moment of a glance at material nature, then that everything gets activated, and that the living entities who are during the night, like after dissolution of the whole universe, who are all residing, being merged into His transcendental body, that He then impregnates an unlimited number of living entities into the entire material nature, simply by a moment of a glance. And that is only Mahavishnu, only in terms of understanding that how Krishna expands in so many ways, and that Mahavishnu, he expands into that form primarily to deal with material nature, his external nature. And so then what to speak of when Krishna glances on his devotees, Krishna himself. So, because that glance is actually even unlimitedly more potent than Mahavishnu's glance. And why? How is that? Because as Mahavishnu, as you said, he simply impregnates the living entities into material nature. But as Krishna, when he glances upon one, when Radha Gopinath glance upon us, then that glance simply impregnates us with his love, with his unconditional love. And so then and awakens our love for him, so that we feel this undeserved special care, attention and love of the Lord. As we know, famously, the Gopas and the Gopis, when they, like the Gopas when they take lunch with Krishna, the Gopis when they give pleasure to the Lord in the Rasa Lila, that an unlimited number of each of them, they all feel that Krishna is looking just at them. So that is the potency of Krishna's glance. And and now coming to having that kind of basic, not basic, but a little bit appreciation of how Krishna is unlimited and unlimitedly merciful, then we can better understand many pastimes are there in this regard where Krishna brings out simply the love between him and his devotees even more. In fact, Maharaj said basically all the pastimes, they are always there simply to activate the devotees' love for Krishna in special ways. And there's one famous example is also Prahlad Maharaj. Recently we had Narasimha Chaturdashi, where obviously we know if it hadn't been for Hiranyakashipu, for this amazingly powerful and demoniac dictator of the universe, if it hadn't been for him torturing Prahlad Maharaj in so many ways, trying to get him killed and kill him, then we never would have understood as completely the transcendental qualities of Prahlad Maharaj. Obviously it was not for Prahlad Maharaj that he had to prove anything to the Lord of his devotion. We know he's Nityasiddha. He's, in one purpose, said combination of Kripa Siddha and Nityasiddha. But in any case, he's eternally perfect. And so it is, but obviously it's also by the Lord's mercy to exhibit those pastimes for our benefit, for the conditioned souls, that we can see how pure devotees are simply absorbed completely in the love for the Lord, irrespective of any other circumstances, be it as extreme as it was in the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj. But so a principle there is that's described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's quoted in the first purport of the chapter 60 of the 10th canto, which is called Krishna teases Rukmini. So that is one such pastime where we see that beautifully, how Krishna brings out, exhibiting the transcendent qualities of his pure devotees. So there Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that that pastime is of where Krishna actually teases Rukmini, means he actually speaks apparently insensitive words, insulting words to his dearest queen. But by doing so, then her transcendental qualities, her chaste, lovely qualities become exhibited. And so the Acharya explains that it can be compared to when we know camphor, like we use that in data department, for example. Also, I guess everyone knows camphor. So if you take a stone to rub the camphor, then you get much more of the fragrance than if you have just a chunk of camphor. So similarly, Krishna, sometimes he might act himself, or he might create situations which apparently are rough in some way or other on the devotee, but that only brings out the fragrance, the amazing qualities of the devotees even more. So And yeah, so now, how much time is there? We'll talk a bit about this pastime, and first it's also amazing to understand even more of Mother Rukmini's qualities. To first of all, of course, the famous pastime, how she got married to Krishna. We'll briefly talk on that. So we know when it kind of starts off when Krishna had fought with Jarasandha for 18 times. At the 18th time there was Kalayavana as well. And so after defeating Kalayavana, then Krishna and Balaram, they took some of those valuables that were left by the soldiers whom they killed. And as they were making their way back towards Dwarka, then Jarasandha appeared, wanting to fight with them. But then they just apparently they just dropped everything and ran away. And running away, then eventually they jumped on climbed up on a mountain called Pravarshana, which apparently was because they got tired, and just were looking for some refuge. But then Jarasandha, then not being able to find them, set the mountain ablaze, thinking that in this way he'll kill them. But actually they jumped off the mountain and went off to Dwarka. But it's explained, in fact, Krishna did that primarily because he obviously we know, like we discussed before, how inconceivable Krishna is. Actually, I forgot to mention one more point there, that I think that's also explained from Mahaprabhu. No, that's I think later on, or at some point by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, who points out that actually even Ananta Shesh, Lord, who is empowered by Lord Balaram to hold up all the universes, and with his hoods, and so even when he with his unlimited number of hoods tries to glorify the Lord, that even if he does that for eternity, he cannot even explain the activities of that Krishna or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibits on one day. Like in his manifest pastimes, as we know, there's apparently a time limit when he appears and when he disappears. So out of these pastimes, one day even, if Ananta Shesh tries to explain, he cannot come to the end of it. So just another amazing point there of how quite inconceivable Krishna's pastimes are. So, and that also means that there's always, the acharyas might give some reasons why Krishna does this or that, but we can never fully understand. So, but one primary reason there was that Krishna didn't want to bother again fighting with this Jarasandha there. He already defeated him 17 times before. Rather, he wanted to come back to Dwarka because he knew then that one day then one Brahmana messenger was sent there by Mother Rukmini, Princess Rukmini at that time. And that messenger relayed her message, because we know that her father, actually, Bhishmaka, he was a devotee also, so he desired, and all the residents, they actually desired for Rukmini to marry Krishna, because they all understood that it's described there that Krishna and Rukmini, they were Sadrisham and Sadrishim, they were very similar. We know Srimati Radharani is described, she's actually just like Krishna in one sense, because she's fully the Lord's internal potency. And so, obviously Rukmini also, she's meant to be with Krishna eternally, but in the past time she was apparently then meant to be married to Shishupal because her brother Rukmi, he was one of those many demonic kings at that time who hated Krishna. So, but we know out of all those kings who hated Krishna the most, Shishupal, and so his primary queen, Mother Rukmini, was meant to be married to that person who hates Krishna the most. Imagine that. So, who, as we know, even right from birth, when he couldn't even properly speak, he was blaspheming Krishna. So we can imagine how unbearable it would have been for Rukmini to marry such a person. So, understanding that, then we can appreciate more also how boldly then she sends that letter, and how she first of all arranges for the Brahmana to go there, because that was when already the arrangements were being made for her to get married to Shishupal. So, and then in that, but before coming to the content, I want to briefly also touch find it quite amazing how, and appreciating another aspect of the pastime here, of how Krishna deals with that Brahmana messenger. Because it said that when that messenger arrived there, Krishna, he was nicely sitting on his throne, golden throne, and then as soon as he saw the Brahmana coming in, he jumped off the throne and humbly welcomed the Brahmana, worshipped him, and got him fed and rested. So after, and said then after the Brahmana had nicely eaten, taken rest, then Krishna came forward and while massaging the Brahmana's feet, patiently questioned him. So, and here at this point, we can understand that Krishna, he knows everything, obviously, and he also knew specifically here how Princess Rukmini how anxious she was, and how anxiously she sent that messenger. And it was not like that there was, anyway, there's a lot of time, so whenever you're free, you can come and pick me up and kidnap me. No, so it was, as I said, the arrangements were already in full progress of her getting married to Shishupal, the person who hates Krishna most. So, but still, we see here how Krishna, knowing all of that in those dramatic circumstances, still he takes so much time and shows full Vedic etiquette of receiving the Brahmana, worshipping him, and then patiently questioning him. And so he questions him then about, is your mind fully satisfied? And in fact, then he speaks 4 verses on this point of that showing that Brahmanas actually, one primary quality of them is that they are supposed to be always satisfied. That's actually like we might think in Kali Yuga, satisfied means whatever I feel like, I should get that, then I'm satisfied. But no, that's not actually what real satisfaction is. And we know Krishna cites it as one of the austerities of the mind. That the mind, in our mind, we're always supposed to be satisfied, no matter what the circumstance, no matter if our senses get gratified or not, if things happen as we plan them. So Krishna, he shows that importance of the Brahmanas and obviously of devotees also to be satisfied with whatever material conditions there are. And again, because if you're not satisfied, it means actually that we expect something from Krishna. That if we perform devotional service and we don't feel satisfied, means we expect some reciprocation other than bhakti. And Krishna, he shows that there also by how he talks with the Brahmana there. He, for example, he even says that I repeatedly bow my head in respect to the Brahmanas who are satisfied with their lot. So, and then, and even giving the tip of the iceberg here then. So after all of that, the Brahmana, in his response, he says that this is a confidential message I have brought with me, O Lord of the Yadus. Please consider what must be done in these circumstances and do it at once. So from the Brahmana side also, how relaxed he is. He accepts all the worship, all the peaceful interaction with Krishna. But he also knew he knew the message, so he also knew how urgent it is. And so then he tells even Krishna that, and do it at once. So what are you wasting your time here? Come on and go and kidnap Rukmini. And yeah, in fact, Krishna then, he takes the Brahmana with him, and so then they go back, they go to, I think Kundina, what's that city called? Capital of Vidarbha. And yeah, then he sends the Brahmana in to, at least then finally, because Rukmini, she's already in full anxiety. She feels kind of depressed that, it seems Krishna, perhaps he rejected me, that I have some fault in me which is unacceptable for him. So again, showing the humility of pure devotees, Rukmini being the internal potency of the Lord, being all perfect. But that's how she feels. But then eventually at one point she feels a twitch in her left thigh, arm and eyes. And that is a sign of that something auspicious is happening in that moment, and the Brahmana, following Krishna's orders, comes in to the palace to relay the message to Mother Rukmini that Krishna is there. He's gonna save her. And Mother Rukmini, she doesn't have anything to give to the Brahmana apparently, so she just pays her respects, bows down to him. And another nice point there, because these pastimes, I find them especially humorous actually. If you read 10th canto, especially those kind of pastimes in Dwarka, they're real transcendental entertainment. So another nice point there is that her father, King Bhishmaka, it said that the king, upon hearing that Krishna and Balaram had come and were eager to witness his daughter's wedding, went forth with abundant offerings to greet them as music resounded. So apparently, innocently, the king was thinking that Krishna and Balaram, they came here so eagerly to witness this great marriage of Shishupal. Of course, that's not how it turned out. We know that actually Mother Rukmini, she had told I forgot to speak now about the letter, come to that, that she will, the best time of Krishna kidnapping her, she gives all those details, that is when she is being led out, because we know in Vedic times that Matajis, what to speak of princesses, they're especially protected, that they are not supposed to go out, like they're not going out on the street, just without anyone. So she was all the time in the palace, and so she told him that at the time when traditionally they go to temple of Ambika to get her blessings for the marriage, that at that time then Krishna should kidnap her. And so now just briefly on this famous letter, actually, what Mother Rukmini told to Krishna through the Brahmana messenger. So, we're pretty much out of time. Didn't even get to the other pastime. Okay, so I'll just briefly tell those two of those famous verses on which, because that itself already shows the unconditional love that Mother Rukmini has for Krishna, and then of course when Krishna teases her, that comes out even more later on. So first she starts off with Shri Rukmini Uvacha Shrutva Gunan Bhuvana Sundara Shinvatam Te Nirvishya Karna Vipare Haraton Gatapam Rupam Disham Drishimatam Akilarta Lapam Dvaya Chuda Vishati Chittam Apatratam Me. Where Queen Rukmini tells to Krishna that just by hearing about you, because we know that's one famous point there, that Mother Rukmini hadn't seen Krishna before that, and she only heard about it. But even heard means it was not even that, because she was a small girl at that time. It was not even that someone came to her personally telling, oh, Krishna is like this, Krishna is like that. But it was simply, I heard Maharaj explain that obviously because Bhishmaka, her father, was a great devotee, so naturally he would nicely welcome and worship saints when they sometimes came, such as Narada Muni, and naturally they would glorify the Lord, they would glorify Krishna. And so simply by that she got to hear about Krishna, and therefore, as she says in that verse, by hearing about you, O beauty of the world, Bhuvana Sundaram Te, that hearing, Nivishya Karna Vivaraya, it entering the ear, it harato angatapam, it destroys all the bodily distress that we may feel. And not only that, and she says that even though she hadn't seen Krishna, but just by hearing, actual seeing of Krishna is more importantly by hearing. So she also realized that Rupam Drisham Drishimatam Akilarta Lapam, that seeing your form is that which actually gives full satisfaction to the eyes, to that which sees. And so knowing that, O Krishna, O Achyuta, infallible Lord, I fixed my mind on you. And she says like that also, I heard that actually, because one might think that, how can she so boldly just propose like that? But that understanding, or rather, then actually I think in one verse or two verses later after that, she explains how the circumstances are such that she is meant to be married here to Shishupal, who is just like a jackal. But actually, I'm meant to be married by you, who are just like a lion. And so kindly, kidnap me. And so in that sense she says, so shameless, but then in that sense she explains that, don't consider me shameless, but the situation is like that. And then later, in another verse, famously she says that, Yasyam gripankacharata rachasna panamahanta vanjantyama patirivatma tamopahatya. Yariyam puchaksha nalaveya bhavat prasaram jayamasun vrata krishan chatashanma bhisyat. Where she tells that it is the dust of your lotus feet which is desired, hankered after by even the greatest personalities, just like Lord Shiva, for example, who know that dust is what can completely remove their ignorance. But so if understanding how great you are and how insignificant I am, humbly she says like that, I'm prepared to undergo severe austerities life after life, giving up my life here, life after life, simply by engaging in austerities, hoping for your mercy. And so that established itself already, kind of the stature of Rukmini's devotion. But then later on, when Krishna teases her, he brings that out even more, because I'll just tell a few words on that. We're out of time. So, what happens is that actually we know the mood of Rukmini is that of complete submissiveness, of always whatever Krishna likes, however he likes it, 100% doing it just like that, not having any obviously all pure devotees, they have no separate desire from Krishna, but the rasa is such that, like Srimati Radharani or Queen Satyabhama, that they sometimes give pleasure to Krishna by apparently disagreeing with him, arguing with him, rejecting him, or kind of all those pastimes. But then the other type is like of Mother Rukmini, who is simply completely submissive to whatever Krishna directly desires. So Krishna was then thinking one time that, how what happened in previous one of the other famous pastimes, there's how Narada Muni one day he had given a parichata flower to Queen Rukmini, and hearing that, Queen Satyabhama got upset and told at Krishna, And so then that's one reason of many reasons why Krishna then goes and defeats Narakasura, where he releases all this. I always mix it up. Is it the queens or the princes there? Or kings? I think it's the queens, right? Yeah. And then after that goes to heaven and retrieves, brings back the items to the demigods that the demon had stolen from them, and then he plucks a whole tree of the Parichat, and we know that Indra even challenges him again and all of that. But so Krishna was thinking, yeah, that even when I gave a whole tree to Satyabhama, Rukmini didn't become angry. She didn't say anything. So so he was thinking, how can I make her angry? And so that's how then he one day described the beautiful palace of them is described and everything, and then that one day while he was relaxing on the bed and the maid servants were fanning him, then Mother Rukmini at one point herself gently took the fan from the chamar from the maid servants, because she herself wanted to render that humble menial service to Krishna, and she was in full bliss, satisfaction, just doing that, beholding the form of Krishna and fanning. And then, and at that time, then Krishna suddenly begins to tease her. And so in basically what he does is he apparently puts himself down, and in such a way that saying that actually I'm not at all qualified to be your husband, so better you should go and find someone else. and so, like, one of the things he says there is that I'm only I just picked that out of one of those funny things, that I'm only glorified by deluded beggars, which sarcastically means, of course, we know that those pure devotees are Paramahamsas. They are completely detached from anything material and are simply absorbed in glorifying the Lord. And he tells many things, and that itself is like an amazing topic to actually study and discuss, because then all of that shows many important points of how to understand Krishna also. And because then Rukmini, in her response, she defeats Krishna actually. So eventually Krishna does succeed, but not initially, because initially, after hearing all of that, of how Krishna apparently is giving her up, Mother Rukmini, she put her head down, broke out in unlimited tears, and then eventually she actually collapsed. It's described like a banana tree by the wind. And so, but at that time, then Krishna manifested 4 arms to immediately pick her up, caress her, clean the kajal that was washed by the tears and all of that, to quickly pacify her. And then he explains that, oh, my dear queen, actually I was just joking. and then but even then, actually, he keeps joking a bit more still, because he addresses her there in one verse. It says Bhamini, which means "O temperamental one," or angry, passionate. Though she just exhibited that, even being provoked so much, she did not become angry as he apparently intended in the pastime, but rather she, completely passed out in her anxiety of thinking that she would lose Krishna. But so then eventually she does become upset then at the point when she defeats Krishna, in terms of him having said that all these great kings, they are so qualified, so why didn't you take one of them? You don't have proper discrimination, you're kind of, in other words, you're kind of foolish, why did you choose me? So then she, at that point, it said she actually did become upset with Krishna, and she retaliates back in saying that, no, I do have proper discrimination, I do understand your greatness and everything. Like for example, he said, like, he doesn't have any good qualities, but actually it means he doesn't have any material qualities, and so forth. And so, it is with full consideration that I chose you. So at that time, then she actually, defeats Krishna in that way also. But yeah, so conclude here. So all these beautiful pastimes, they show that it is by pure love only that we can defeat Krishna, that we can understand Krishna, and obviously for us it's a long way to come to such as a level like Rukmini will never come, but even nearly to such perfection. But yeah, so that shows us that we should understand. Obviously, these pastimes said are an example for us also, that whatever tests we go through, whatever apparently tough situations we face, they're all the Lord's causeless mercy, because it is Radha Gopinath always who know best what is really best for us, and that many times it means to give us opportunities through apparently external difficulties to take more shelter of them, and thus to actually really appreciate the causeless mercy. As I said, causeless mercy, it's not something we just go in front of the lordships and feel or pray to the Lord, kindly give me your mercy, and then magically we feel, oh, now I feel ecstatic love. No, there's real love. Real love, we have to reawaken from our heart, and that involves getting freed from any material considerations, any material attachments, and simply being fully satisfied in taking shelter of Krishna under whatever circumstances. Okay, so we'll finish here. Apparently there's one question I'm supposed to answer. I'll try that, but if anyone wants to leave before that's the normal class, I'll conclude here. You have a question also? Who is that from? I don't know.
That's from everybody.
No, is it? Okay, so it's said here in today's purport that the purport says the bodily effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Kaivalya, impersonal Brahman. In that impersonal effulgence there are spiritual planets which are known as Vaikunthas, chief of which is Krishna Loka. So the question is, so what is the actual real form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead if Krishna Loka is on his bodily effulgence? How will he look like in his personality and qualities? If is on his bodily effulgence, well, so bodily effulgence simply means that, the effulgence means it's emanating from the original body of Krishna. But of course it doesn't mean that in one sense again, then if you look at that, we might come to the conclusion, no, that means Krishna is just, if that emanates from him, this means he himself must be even more effulgent, so he's just light. No, obviously that is not what it means. As we discussed, Krishna is inconceivably, he has inconceivable potencies, so he is able to have his unlimitedly beautiful personal form, while everything emanates from him, but not in our material conception. No, this means it comes out from the body just like this rays we see here and there. So yeah, we know not only we know everything is Krishna's energy, which everything emanates from him, but not in that material conception necessarily. So including his bodily effulgence being, the light illuminating the whole spiritual sky and then even the material sky as a partial manifestation through the sun and other items. So it doesn't mean that because it's on his effulgence that he cannot have his personal form. Yeah. Yes, bro.
Thanks for the class, Prabhu. In the translation, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that when free from all doubts, he steadily progresses towards his destined abode. I'm just wondering what doubts are being referred here.
Well,
basically stating that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, or what sort of doubts when he's clear he will be heading to his destination?
yeah, we know in general Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right, that one who even after having heard transcendental knowledge, if we still keep doubting it, then we won't be able to make much progress, because then we won't be able to put our full heart. And it's I mean, and it's also, obviously an item of surrender to, I mean, there's no question of real surrender if we have doubt, if we doubt Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all that follows from that yes, everything is in energies, I'm his part and parcel, I can only be happy by serving him, that's my eternal constitutional position, I'm not this body, all of that. Yeah, if we doubt, then obviously we can't surrender, we can't accept him as our maintainer, our protector, unconditionally, and that all of those items of surrender as well.
And in the second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that in the purport, the planets rest in the sunshine, but the sunshine itself has no particular resting place. What planets rest in sunshine? Is that the material world? I think it's talking about that.
Yeah, I assume so.
What exactly is that sunshine being referred to?
Yeah, I mean, we can take it for the material world. It works either way, but yes. Yeah, the planets rest in the sunshine means that it is, the sun, the actual source of energy in the material universe is the sun, as providing light and heat and activating all the processes, we know, the water cycle, for example, for our planet as well, and those kind of things. So in that sense, the planets, they all rest on the sunshine. But the point that Prabhupada is making here is that, but the sunshine doesn't rest, so he tells it in the context of impersonalists, right? How if you just merge in the effulgence, then you are not, steadily situated as if you are on a spiritual planet where you engage in devotional service eternally. But if you are just out there in the effulgence, he just wants to make that point here, how that is not our eternal constitutional position.
In the same paragraph, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that in impersonal effulgence, there are spiritual planets which are known as Vaikunthas, chief of which is Krishna Loka. This point is really interesting. I thought, isn't Brahmajyoti outside the purview of the spiritual world? That's why whoever reaches there eventually fall down to the material world.
In that spiritual planets. No, I mean, that's like one main point. We know that spiritual world means light, material world means darkness, that there's it's described that Krishna's effulgence pervades the entire spiritual world, and then whereas in the material world it is covered like apparently by a cloud of the Mahatattva. Mahatattva is like a cloud, and so there it's then only partially exhibited through the sun. But again, it doesn't, we with our material conception might think, so it's just this light going everywhere, which, it may be in some way, but not necessarily of how we might imagine it. So. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Today you said a lot of things about materialism and some of the glimpses of materialistic desires of Krishna, or not desires of indulgences of Krishna. So I always think, after being in the temple and in my spiritual life, for a mystic yogi, how would you say materialism is important? Somewhat, very, or critical?
Materialism.
Materialism, is it somewhat important, very important, or critically important for a successful mystic yogi?
No, I mean, we know basically, especially now in Kali Yuga, it's pretty much full opposite of what how society structures as being conducive for spiritual life, for real life. But I mean, basically Krishna gives those basic instructions in Gita also of how, a yogi is supposed to be regulated in his eating, sleeping, defending, even mating obviously not in other yoga systems, that's only possible if you're a Grihastha devotee. But so it's, like we said, just do enough to maintain your body nicely to be able to engage in devotional service. And obviously nowadays there's a grihastha that may be that we have to work somewhere outside, but not getting engrossed in it. Yeah, in the material activities, but understanding, yes, I do this work for the sake of maintaining my family, supporting the temple and this and that, and not thinking that, oh, that's my career is everything, I have to put on my full heart there. Okay, thank you. Grantarachima Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.